Joining us now to talk more is Seth Berenzweig. He's going to talk more about this landmark Supreme Court decision here. All right, first up, I want to get your take as a lawyer on the Supreme Court decision that impacts birthright citizenship. What do you make of the ruling?
Well, I think the ruling is spot on. It's been a historic week here in Washington. The Supreme Court has reset the constitutional balance of power. And while it didn't rule on the core substantive issue, that's remanded back to the district court. This is historic. The Supreme Court ruled that a district court judge, a trial judge, does not have the proper legal authority to issue an injunction outside of the context of that judge's judicial district and outside of the parties that are before the court. This not only is based on sound legal principles, but remarkable common sense. Judges are not monarchs. They're not kings. They don't have the authority to take an injunction, spread it out across the United States, and have a judge in San Francisco or Manhattan tell people in Mississippi or Alabama how to behave. It's absolutely absurd. It's completely tripped up the administration's ability to implement policy, including, for example, on immigration issues, which also had major decisions coming down from the Supreme Court this week, giving the president further flexibility, options, quickness to be able to do these sorts of things. Now, these judges will not be able to throw sand into the cogs of justice. This is a major and historic development.
All right, and Trump says this is a common sense decision, just like you have said today. Take a listen to this.
This is really also a decision based on common sense. It didn't work the other way. It was a disaster where somebody from a certain location in a very liberal state or a liberal judge or a liberal group of judges could tie up a whole country for years because their decision would sometimes take years to overturn.
And the ACLU is responding in part that the ruling could put, quote, thousands of U.S.-born children at risk of being denied their constitutional rights based on the citizenship status of their parents. What do you think happens from here?
Well, first of all, it really depends on how the decision ultimately comes out. You will have different decisions from different judicial districts. The Supreme Court gave a 30-day pause prior to the implementation of the president's executive order. That gives other parties chances to go into their respective district courts and let these cases bubble up to the system, to the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court may ultimately determine that even though the president is right, that they may have a time parameter based upon this, but ultimately what's important to recognize is that if it doesn't flow from the Constitution and if it's unauthorized, then we can't make things up out of thin air. The president needs to have the authority to control immigration, to control nationalization, to control these kinds of things so that America can stay safe, control its population, control its borders. And I think that this was absolutely an appropriate and historic decision, and it gives the Trump administration the ability to move forward in the interest of American national security and in protecting the citizens of the United States.
Appreciate you weighing in. Attorney Seth Berenzweig, thank you for your time.